Welcome to the Third Generation Wrestling Podcast with your hosts, Eric and Rob.
Welcome on back, ladies and gentlemen. Third Generation Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Eric, joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob. How's it been, man? It's been a little bit since we did our WrestleMania post show, and how things going? How you dealing with these weird times we're living in?
Man, I'm doing good, considering it looks like, at least in some states, there might be some light at the end of the tunnel. Here in Iowa, the region, I live in a county called Polk, and I don't know if they do this in your state, but they give ratings as to the condition levels of the situation with what we're going through, and the highest number you can be at is a 10. Well, early last week, or this week, we were at a 9, but the governor has dropped it to an 8. So now that doesn't mean, look, we're still under quarantine, there's still a ways to go, but at least we're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, as far as I know, Illinois, the latest update is as far as schools go, and the kids return to school. That's not going to happen. So they are home with my son. I have a co-parent, so she helps out. I've actually had my son at my house for the last month and a half, and then I have my stepson and my daughter who are still here. But it makes it easier, I guess, on the wallet, because you don't have to shell out money for daycare. The kids are at home, you know where they are, they're safe. But, you know, before all this happened, and when I had the kids on the weekend, I was able to take them, you know, at least to the park, or at least go to the arcade. Let's get out the house, something. And I think that's just what's making this so much harder, is to be home, but you can't go anywhere. And it's just rough. I myself, I'll just put it out there, I've been placed on furlough for my own job, and we'll get into in a minute the list of WWE talent that have also been cut and furloughed. But just for me, I know my job personally did the best they could to take care of their employees. Not unlike WWE, my job is continuing to pay for our benefits while we are on furlough. So we are still employed. Benefits are still taken care of. So we have that going for us. So it's still a great company. I mean, I'm hoping that, you know, at least within the next 2 months, that somehow we get back to a bit of normalcy. I don't know that even if we're able to open up the floodgates and say, hey, everything's back, you can go dine in and eat, you can go to sporting events. To me, and I want to get your take too, I don't think that there's going to be like this rapid comeback of people. There'll be some people that'll go straight out. They'll go out and eat because people want to dine in and eat. But I don't know if sporting events are going to sell out like they would previously. And you're not going to get like that full arena. Movie theaters aren't going to be packed like they would be normally, because now you got people in their mind thinking, well, who sat here before me? Did they wash their hands before they sat down? Or did they bathe themselves today before they came in here? Like, all these things. So I think we will eventually get back to somewhat of normalcy, but I think it's going to be a slow build, a slow crawl back to, you know, being out in public and not wearing gloves and masks.
Yeah, I definitely agree. According to what I've heard, there's going to be a process to this, but I agree like you that I think people are just going to be more cautious. There are going to be a lot of people who aren't going to be anxious to go out into public places. And I'm just hoping that there won't be a rush on this. I know the economy is suffering very badly, and they want to get people back out there buying and shopping, and they want to get sports back. But I've also heard that there could be a second wave of this in the fall. So let's just make sure that we all take our proper precautions and get back. We all want things back to normal, but let's just make sure we do it the proper way, so that way we don't have a resurgence.
definitely. Stay home. It's hard. I consider myself a homebody. I don't really be out in the streets like that. But I do like to go out. I like to go watch a movie. I do like to go to sporting events. You just can't do any of that. Can't even have real gatherings. I'm curious, because I don't know. Fortunately, nobody close to me in our family has passed away from any cause. So I don't know how they're even handling funerals at this point. Because you can't have large gatherings more than 10, 15 people. And I have our family's huge. So there's definitely more than 10, 15 people going to come to that kind of thing. So I don't even know how that's handled, but I'm sure there's something in place for that. Let us get to the updates, the news in pro wrestling. So today we're going to touch on the biggest news of the week, should I say, which was the cuts made by WWE. We're also going to touch on Smackdown results, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming up, and a few other topics that are relevant at the moment. So we're just going to dive right in and get into D-Day, Doomsday. Wow. Now, in the past, WWE at least once a year would have what they call Black Friday, what they would release at the most 5 or 6 talents on the whole roster. Well, due to COVID-19 and just like any other major company, which we'll debate in a minute, but WWE is following suit and cutting ties with certain talent, furloughing other personnel, and in order to save money and obviously not affect their revenue stream. Excuse me. So here's a list of the talents that were cut this week. So as far as wrestlers go, we have Rusev, Kurt Angle, who, while he was retired last year at WrestleMania, had a role backstage as a producer. Zack Ryder, Eric Rowan, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, Sarah Logan, EC3, Drake Maverick, Kurt Hawkins, Mike and Maria Kanellis, Heath Slater, No Way Jose, Eric Young, Leo Rush, Primo, Epico, Deonna Purrazzo, Dan Matha, that must be an NXT, MJ Jenkins, Alyssa Marino, Alexander Jaksic. I hope I'm saying that right. So I think those last 3 or 4 were from NXT specifically. And then as far as producers that were furloughed, Fit Finlay, Shane Helms, Billy Kidman, Mike Rotunda, Pat Buck, Sean Daivari, Scott Armstrong, Sarah Stock, Lance Storm, and then you had developmental coaches at the PC, Serena Deeb, Kendo Keshin, Chris Guy, and then announcers, Aiden English, Jerry Soto were furloughed, and 31-year veteran referee Mike Chioda was released. And as far as the creative team, Andrea Listenberger, she pushed that program with Dolph Ziggler, Otis, Mandy Rose. That was all from her. And then other talent, Josiah Williams. You all might know him from, rapping Adam Cole to the ring at TakeOver 25. And he does a lot of freestyles over Superstars entrance themes. So quite a list. And I think there was more added. I know Cassius Ohno from NXT was also released. And I don't know if there's been any more releases, but it seemed like most of the releases were from Raw and NXT. So, now I've routed all that off. Your initial reaction when you saw these releases?
Well, first off, very sad for all of the talent that lost their jobs. These are tough times, and it's something that all of us can relate to at this point. You spoke about your situation earlier. I'm working from home. I go physically into work one day a week, but I'm being paid my full pay. I work for a great company that's taking care of me. My understanding is that WWE didn't just kick these people out on their butt. They gave them 30 days pay from what I read. I don't pretend to know all of the ins and outs of it. Probably no one really does except for those involved. But it's sad. It's sad when anyone loses their job. I don't know if anyone has taken time to watch Drake Maverick's tweet. I mean, it's just heartbreaking to watch this man who's has such a passion for this business and loses his job. The flip side of it is I've always said that I felt like the roster was too big. And I say this respectfully. I feel like a lot of the talent that they released, either they weren't doing much with or the talent just didn't really find a way to really make a big splash in WWE. I was surprised at the release of the OC, Leo Rush. I thought Deonna Purrazzo had potential, but then the producers, Fit Finlay has been there for, like you said, Mike Chioda, 30-year referee. Fit Finlay has been with WWE at least that long or close to that long. Mike Rotunda, I don't know if people know, he's the father of Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt. And I remember watching him wrestle back in the late 80s, early 90s as IRS, Erwin R. Shyster. So, yeah, it's sad to see people lose their jobs, but and like I said, once again, I say this respectfully. Rusev, I wish they would have done something with, but they just didn't seem to want to do anything with him. So if you're not going to do anything with them, I guess what I'm saying is that, to me, they picked the proper talent to release. If you're going to release someone, they weren't doing much with most of these people, so unfortunately, I guess WWE felt it was best to let them go.
Yeah, and that's the other caveat to this. There are a handful of these talent that actually wanted to leave the company. So for those individuals, they got their wish, maybe not in the form that they wanted to, but they got their wish. Now, as far as Drake Maverick goes, obviously he had no desire to leave the company based on that tweet. He did mention, though, that WWE is letting him finish the Cruiserweight tournament. I guess he has a couple matches left that haven't been filmed yet. So they are letting him complete those, and then after that, he will get his release. So, and I think anytime they release a performer, they don't just cut them off from the feeding. You know, they pay them out the time. It's not the same as if they were on the road, but they do get paid a certain percentage to stay home. Those was 30 days they have to wait before they can, or is it 60 days, no compete. I don't know. It's either 30 or 60. They can't sign with anybody else. And for those that think that all these talent are just going to run over to AEW, you can forget about that. You might get one that goes to AEW. I think Carl Anderson has already kind of hinted at going back to New Japan on his Twitter account. So don't count on all these people going to AEW. Some probably go to ROH. Some will go back to Impact. Some will go to New Japan. New Japan, by the way, is paying their talent full pay to stay home. Has not cut anybody. That being said, WWE did not. I don't agree with cutting the talent for the reason that they say they cut the talent. It's to save money. You don't need to save any money, WWE. Number one, you're still doing television, so you're still getting paid for that from Fox and USA. You're getting all that money this year. On top of, and then the money you got from doing your Saudi Arabia shows. Like, one Saudi Arabia show was enough money to pay everybody's salary. So they didn't cut these talent to save money that they were, would have affected their income. No, they cut these talent to keep their profit margin where they want it. That's what this is all about. So they could afford to pay these people for the rest of the year, and they wouldn't have lost a dime. So I don't want to hear about, it's not the same. To me, it's just not the same as my situation or bartenders and servers type of situation. It's just not. So that's my 2 cents.
And while I would agree with that, all I'll say, and this is not in defense of WWE, but Vince McMahon has had a tough couple of months. Not only what's happened with the loss of the revenue he would have gotten from WrestleMania, the loss of revenue he gets from every city they go to, performing anywhere from 5 to 15,000 people a week or a couple of times a week. He's not getting that money. But the XFL, which he just brought back, had to file bankruptcy. So I think what we're seeing happen as far as these furloughs, it's not, like you said, it's about profit margin. But obviously the XFL, I think, is playing a part in this decision as well. If it were just WWE in and of itself, maybe these people still have jobs. But with the XFL filing for bankruptcy, I'm guessing that in some way played a part in all of this.
It could have, because you do have shareholders that look at it and go, okay, even though WWE and XFL are two different entities, they're run by the same guy. So you can't even go to your shareholders and say, oh, we're going to file bankruptcy for XFL and keep everybody on staff. So I do get that. But don't put out there that, oh, we're making these cuts to save money. You don't need to save any money.
Well, you're right about that. You're right. But once again, I'll state, I think most of the talent, not all of it, but most of the talent that they got rid of, I didn't feel like they were doing much with anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a handful of these people didn't want to be there to begin with. So they got their releases. It's still just, I don't, even when I work with people that I particularly don't care for, I've never been one to say I want them to lose their job. Even if I get into it with them, I don't want to see them lose their job. I know how that can affect people's lives. So it's just hard to see, especially when you know the grind these people are on, and they're independent contractors. So there is no, I mean, I just hope and pray that they were smart with their money. They're making good money. Don't get me wrong. I just hope they were smart with it. They have enough put away to get them to their next gig. And for some of them, this will be a good thing. I know it's, kind of hard to tell at the moment, but when you can go to Impact, and you can go to ROH and New Japan and all the other companies, and when you can, start your own YouTube channel and put out your own content, get yourself more over. Take the time to get in better shape. Change your look. I mean, you do all these things, get yourself more over, and then you never know. And I guarantee, and this is where I'll leave it, I guarantee WWE is thinking some of the people that they cut, they'll bring back. Without even, whether they get over in a different company or not, they'll bring them back.
They absolutely will. And the current WWE champion who just defeated Brock Lesnar is a perfect example of that.
Yep. So from there, we have to go ahead and acknowledge the fact that this wasn't bad enough. It was Wednesday. We lost a Hall of Famer, probably the greatest ring announcer ever in the history of wrestling, the great Howard Finkel. He passed away at the age of 69. The Fink debuted as a ring announcer for WWE, then known as the WWF, in 1977 and became a full-time announcer in 1979. He continued in that role into the 2000s before transitioning into a part-time announcing position and primarily working for WWE in a behind-the-scenes capacity. I didn't even know that until a lot of the talent came out after he passed, and they talked about how impactful he was. I didn't know he was even working backstage. Finkel was honored for his many contributions to the professional wrestling business in 2009 when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. When the WWF became the WWF in 1980, Finkel was the company's first employee. WWE Chief Brand Officer Stephanie McMahon recognized him for that and his other accomplishments in a tweet on Tuesday. She said, in what has already been a tough week for our company, our WWE family today, we lost our first ever employee and WWE Hall of Famer, Howard Finkel. Howard's voice is iconic and recognized by generations of fans. He will be missed. Rest in peace, Howard Finkel. Howard Finkel. Thank you for everything. Yeah, it's I've always said that, and for those that don't know, Howard did suffer a stroke in 2018. So he has been sick for quite a bit. But I've always thought that he was his voice, just him, and then maybe Tony Chimmel after that. But Howard Finkel's voice, I always thought that the way he announced, especially like Triple H, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon. I'm just trying to think of like people that when he announced it, it just made him, he just sounded cooler doing it. And I saw a video MVP posted of talking about Howard Finkel. And Howard Finkel's job, one of his jobs backstage was to inform talent of their travel schedules and to give them their itineraries. And the MVP asked him, can you do it? Can you do it one time? And he literally read MVP's entire itinerary in his announcer voice. So that was a cool backstory. I think there'll never be another Howard Finkel as far as I'm concerned. Just the best ever to do it. It's sad. 69 is these days 69 is actually kind of young. So really sad to hear.
It was. When I got this text, I was just, it really did tear me up. And I immediately responded, this is very sad. Howard Finkel was the voice of WWF, WWE. I have some years on you, so I've been watching WWE since the 80s, since the early 80s. And Howard's voice, like you said, very distinct, and you just got so used to hearing his announcing. You just got so used to Howard being, and Howard loved the business. When I first got my WWE Network subscription, one of the first original shows they did was called Legends House, and it had wrestlers in there like the late Roddy Piper, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Tony Atlas. Howard was one of the legends.
I still haven't watched that show.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, now it might be a good time to go revisit it because Howard was in that show, and he would often talk about his passion and his love for this business. And when he passed, I started, like you, looking at articles and just reading about Howard. And I know that his favorite moment announcing is also my favorite WrestleMania, and it was WrestleMania 3 in front of 93,000 people. And I don't know, man. It's just, I enjoy Lillian Garcia. I enjoy Chimmel. I enjoy all of the ring announcers, but there was only one Howard Finkel. And to me, the absolute greatest ring announcer ever. I wasn't aware that he had a stroke. I wasn't aware of that until I was reading articles relating to his passing. So I was caught by surprise on that. But just a sad day to hear about the passing of, to me, the greatest to ever do it, to ever announce, Howard Finkel.
Yep. Okay. Switching gears here a little bit because we're going to get into SmackDown. But before we go into SmackDown, something curious. Now, I haven't watched anything live or like Raw, Smackdown, all the way through, NXT, all the way through. But, I pay attention and watch the YouTube clips. So it's a little jarring to see that even after Triple H, Stephanie, and a few other superstars had acknowledged the fact that it was okay, and Vince has said that nobody will be punished for pulling out of anything. It's just ironic to me that WWE is keeping Roman Reigns' name off TV. It's reported that WWE has ordered talent and television production crew not to mention Reigns' name for the foreseeable future after he withdrew from his WrestleMania match against Goldberg. And I just, I don't know about you. I know Vince is, the businessman. He's more the businessman than he is anything else. And I'm sorry. No disrespect to Braun Strowman, but Braun Strowman versus Goldberg was not the match that it, compared to what Roman Reigns versus Goldberg would have been. Not only just in the Performance Center, but if you were to switch those matches at Raymond James, the Roman match is still better. He's immunocompromised. Everyone knows this. He has a legitimate disease that if he were to contract COVID-19, it could take him out. And you have the nerve to give him the Chris Benoit treatment?
Just when I was giving WWE some credit with the furlough situation, I wasn't aware of this story. I was not aware of this story. But I am very, very upset about this because Vince made it clear that if you didn't want to participate in the show, if you felt uncomfortable, you didn't have to. There would be no repercussions. And now that other wrestlers aren't allowed to mention Roman by name. Now, say what you want to about Roman Reigns. I know he hasn't always been a fan favorite, but the man shows up to do his business. Okay? He's a good worker. All the reports I've heard say that he is great in the locker room. Everybody loves Roman. The people who work with him love working with him. The man has leukemia. Okay? He had to leave wrestling for that reason. He had to drop the title for that reason, a title that he had finally gotten over and won, but he had to drop it. Made his way back. He's in remission. But for circumstances that are completely understandable, he decided, at this point, I just need to walk away. So why WWE feels the need to keep his name off of the shows or to not have the other wrestlers mention his name, I'm just going to say, I just think it's BS, and I think it's a bad look for WWE, and I have to wonder how this is affecting the locker room. If I'm one of Roman's fellow workers, I'm not happy with WWE right now, with considering all of the releases, and then now this. I don't know what they're doing there.
No, I think that maybe the only thing I can think of is maybe they didn't appreciate the video that Roman posted on his Instagram in response to some of the backlash he got for pulling out of Mania, which is strange because he said it in the video for so many years. People didn't want him on WrestleMania. Yeah, I didn't want him in the main event. He pulls out. Oh, you use a bitch. You use the P word, just all this stuff. It's like, and we'll get into, we're going to talk about Ronda Rousey here in a bit, but this is why I just cannot side with other wrestling fans anymore. I have to just go with what I believe, and I don't think Roman did anything wrong. He's a family man. We just found out this week his wife is pregnant again with 2 more twins. He's going to be up to 5 kids. So, yeah, think about that. And the other thing he mentioned in that video was you don't know who's living in his house. And we don't. How many of us, we're all in that kind of age group. Once you pass 30, you're kind of in a group where you don't know how your parents are gonna be when they get older. You may have to take care of them. They may have to live with you because most people don't put their parents in a home. And that's all I'm saying. You don't know his situation. So that coupled with now you don't want to mention his name. It's petty as hell. That's all I can say. It's just extremely petty, if that's true. And I swear, man, a lot of times, I say it all the time on here, if not for this podcast, I don't know if I'd be watching WWE.
Man, I couldn't agree more on this subject. And it's not just Roman. Look at what his entire family has given to WWE. Okay? His father, or his uncles are the Wild Samoans. His cousin is The Rock.
Yeah, his father's one of them.
Okay, his father. He's cousins with the Usos. Their family has given so much to WWE. And this is how you treat him?
Yeah. So not only we're talking about the Usos, we're talking about Tamina, you're talking about Nia, you're talking about Yokozuna, The Rock. Hello. Umaga. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, and this is kind of a sister story, but as far as in Florida, in Orange County, Florida, WWE was also made a essential business. So that's how they're allowed to stay open and tape. There have been police calls to the Performance Center because they were taping. Now, Orange County has deemed sporting events essential businesses as long as there's no fan attendance. So WWE is within their right to shoot in Florida, which we're also going to talk about Money in the Bank here in a bit. I don't know what the hell they're thinking about with this, but that will be interesting as well. So let's go ahead and segue into Smackdown. Smackdown took place last night. Still at the PC. Still no crowd. Not a whole lot going on. I will credit them, though, that they made Money in the Bank feel like Money in the Bank with these qualifying matches. They started with the women this past on Monday Night Raw. But as far as SmackDown goes, so we had Sasha Banks versus Tamina, and this was a qualifier for the women's. And when I saw the card, I saw that these matches were going on, I just automatically do predictions in my head. And I'm thinking, Sasha versus Tamina, Sasha will win. Wrong. Tamina won with a super kick, and she pinned Sasha Banks clean, and she will be going to the Money in the Bank ladder match. I saw the match with Dana Brooke versus Naomi, and I thought, Naomi will go. She's, a better, as far as what we know, and I like Dana Brooke, don't get me wrong. But as far as talent goes, Naomi's obviously the more talented. She just came back not too long ago at the Royal Rumble, so I gotta think she's going to go over. Nope. Dana Brooke wins with a roll-up. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, your thoughts really quick with those two matches.
Well, like you, I was shocked by both of those results. We've talked about Dana Brooke and how we'd like to see her get a bigger spot. It looks like they're doing that for her. Look, Tamina has been there for a while. She's just never really found her character or found a following. I'm not sure why she gets over on Sasha.
Yeah, it's just weird that Sasha comes back and she's supposed to be doing this feud with Bayley, but they're doing everything to keep them from not having a match.
And then to have her lose to Tamina clean.
Clean.
Yeah, that makes me wonder where she's standing with the company right now. But yeah, like you, extremely shocked by both of those results and wondering, who are going to end up being the final competitors in this match.
Yeah. And I'll go over all the competitors when we get to talking about Money in the Bank. We also had Sheamus versus NXT talent Denzel DeJournette. Sheamus got the win there. Bro kick. Y'all know the story. We also got Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro. I actually want to go back and watch this because I've heard good things. That this is probably a good match. Daniel Bryan did get the win. This was a Money in the Bank qualifier. So as far as the men go, Daniel Bryan is the only man to qualify for the men's MITB match. And then the main event was the triple threat match for the Smackdown Tag Team Championships, which Big E got the win for New Day. And New Day are now 8-time WWE, Smackdown Tag Team Champions. So, I think they might hold. I mean, I don't know what the record is, but they got to be right there as far as record number of a stable having tag team championship runs. Your thoughts? Was it the right time to take it off Miz and Morrison? Do you think that New Day don't really need it? Where are you at?
I like New Day, but I don't think that they need it. I thought it was way too soon to take it off of Miz and Morrison. But I'm assuming the competitors were Big E, John Morrison, and then one of the Usos.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me wonder about the condition of Miz right now, because that's kind of a repeat of what they did at Mania 2 weeks ago. And, I mean, why can't they have both participants of each tag team participating? I guess Miz just isn't able to go, so that could be the reason why they decided to go with New Day.
It could be, but you also got to think about the Miz. He has a family. Well, yeah. And Kofi wasn't there either. So Kofi, I think they did a video thing with him after the match. Kofi wasn't there either. He has a family. Big E doesn't have a family. I think, as far as I know, I mean, the Usos, obviously, I can't remember which one. It's Marriott and Naomi. But none of them have any kids, to my knowledge. And I think they're just being safe. I mean, because the biggest thing with this COVID-19 is you may not get it. Or you may not get sick. You may contract it, and you may not show any symptoms, but you could bring it home. And if you have, newborns at home, or you have older people living at home, or you have anybody in your house that may be immunocompromised by any form or fashion, you don't want to bring that in the house. So that's why when I go out, I wear gloves and I wear a mask. And I keep my distance because I don't want to bring it home to my kids. I got a 15-month-old, so.
Well, all of that is understandable, and if that's the reasoning, I can't argue with any of that.
So, we're going to slowly segue into Money in the Bank. The championship match made last night on SmackDown it's official now, so it's going to be Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt for the Universal Championship at Money in the Bank. Now, it's interesting because I feel like they're going to try to right the wrong that happened at Super Showdown with Goldberg and The Fiend. So I don't see Strowman getting over Wyatt this time. I don't see it happening. I think that Braun is the placeholder. I thought he was going to be a placeholder for Reigns, and Reigns would come back and just beat him and get the title. But I guess down the line, we're still going to get Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Probably at SummerSlam. Maybe by then you get that match. Who knows where we're going to be, what the world situation is going to be by then. But if they're looking down that road, that might be where they're going with this. But I don't see a scenario where Braun wins.
I don't either. I think they're going to put it back on The Fiend, and The Fiend versus Roman Reigns is the much bigger match. We've been down that road with Reigns versus Braun, and they work well together, and they would make a good match. But The Fiend is still over, especially after his win over John Cena at Mania. Yeah, I definitely think that's where they're going to go.
So to go deeper into Money in the Bank, WWE has announced that Money in the Bank will take place at the WWE headquarters. That's right, Tintan Towers. How's this gonna go? It will take place on May 10th at its corporate headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. So the match will not be the normal climb the ladder, get the briefcase. Nah. The match will start on the ground floor. The Money in the Bank briefcase will be hanging somewhere above the roof of the building, which has 7 floors. Okay? The official rosters for the women's and men's Money in the Bank matches have not been decided yet. They're still doing the qualifying matches. On the women's side, 4 of the 6 spots are confirmed with Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Dana Brooke. So Lacey Evans or Sasha will take the 5th, and a 6th qualifying match for a title shot has not been announced. So, and Daniel Bryan, like I mentioned, is the only male superstar to have a spot. This coming Monday on Raw, we're going to have Brady Mysterio versus Murphy, Aleister Black versus Austin Theory, Apollo Crews versus MVP, and Drew Gulak versus King Corbin on SmackDown for qualifying matches. So they're obviously gonna film this thing. If they haven't filmed it already, how you feeling, man? I don't know what to think, so I'm just curious. Like you said, you've got years on me as a wrestling fan, so I'm curious what you think of this concept.
Like you, I don't know what to think of it. When I got the text saying this is what they're doing, I believe my response was, I don't even want to know what the hell this is. I don't... It's hard to judge something that I can't even conceive of how it will work. But because of that, I can't say I'm excited about it. It sounds stupid just on its face. But I guess I'm just going to have to wait and see.
I'm just picturing a bunch of people brawling, kind of like the last man standing match, and they're gonna brawl up this. They're gonna scale up a corporate building. Where they're gonna use the stairwells and the elevators, and get to the rooftop. Why not just have the match on the roof, or hell, just do the match at the PC, where you can have. They did a ladder match at Mania, and it was one of the better matches on the show. It made you forget that there was no crowd. So I don't understand why they just want to do that. Do the match at the PC. This is not a better alternative. I'm sorry.
I know WWE, they're trying to do things different, things that they think are intriguing or that will get us to watch. I'm going to watch Money in the Bank regardless.
Oh, yeah.
This to me, look, I'm sure, despite how it sounds, they will take every safety precaution. They're not going to put these wrestlers in a dangerous or deadly situation. But it sounds like it could be dangerous. But I'm not intrigued as much as I'm just curious. I'm going to watch, but I'm not optimistic about the way it all turns out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think either. I think just doing a ladder match at the PC would have been better. But I guess I can't judge until I see the final product, which we will definitely judge when it comes out.
We will.
So we're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk about something that's been out there for a little while now. And I've heard responses from other superstars, Hall of Famers, how they feel about this individual and what they said. I'm talking about Ronda Rousey's comments when she was on a podcast. And, she talked about coming back and, how she didn't want to do it because, she didn't want to come back full time because of the ungrateful fans, how she was treated. She came in, she was a big baby face. She had that great match at WrestleMania. She wasn't, I'm not going to sit here and say she was full-time, but she did work 200 days that year. She did house shows. To me, she did her best to ingratiate herself with not only the fans, but the locker room. She sold well. I don't know. I think a lot of it had to do with the way she was booked, unfortunately. And in these times that we live in, another unfortunate part is people can give you their immediate feedback and you can see it right on your phone with Twitter and Instagram and everything else. And I think that's just, and then, people don't really have the respect that they used to have for these performers. They boo the baby faces and they cheer the heels. So it's just all over the place, and it's really hard to find where you fit in, especially coming from the UFC. And me personally, I don't fault her for that decision to not come back full time. I think it's the right thing to do. Do what's best for you. That's my thing. My only problem with what she said was she used the word fake. Now, I agree with Booker T. I watched his reaction, and him and Christian were doing Booker T's podcast, and I have to agree with them and say you just can't use the word fake. And the reason why you can't use the word fake is because the injuries people suffer are real. You have people that have passed away from injuries that they suffered wrestling 300 days a year. It's a work. It is staged. It is scripted. It is all those things. It's not fake. I'm sorry. And she should know that based on not only what she saw during her tenure, when she saw Nia Jax punch Becky Lynch in the face, and what happened after that. She was known as the face breaker. But, they were able to kind of ride that thing out. But you lost your match with Becky to a legitimate injury. So you cannot call this stuff fake. Is it, like I said, scripted, staged, whatever. Now, it's hard for somebody who's jaded because she was in UFC, she was in the Olympics and all that stuff. It's hard for somebody to say, well, I trained and prepared to fight, to really, really fight. Fine. So did Brock Lesnar. So did Ken Shamrock. So did Bobby Lashley. You just have to, and to me, when you say that word fake, you just spit on every single person that put you over, every single person that worked with you and tried to make you a name in WWE. And I just, and those women that come in there and try to make a name for themselves and have to be pushed down the ladder because, we got to bring in Ronda Rousey, it's just not fair to them. So while I agree with her sentiment as far as the fans go and putting in that time and energy and effort to travel and be away from your family, I get that part. But don't disrespect the business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now, I think some of this is a bit of a work. I think there's some reality in what Rhonda said, but I also think that Rhonda is trying to get herself some heat as a heel for when she does come back, because I do believe that she will come back. But that word fake, that is just a buzzword that you cannot use in the wrestling business. It's just a disrespectful word for all of the ladies and the gentlemen who are a part of the business. And this isn't the first time Rhonda has used that word or been called out for it. And yet here she is doing it again. Ronda Rousey took her nickname Rowdy from the late, great Roddy Piper. She was a fan of his. She's a fan of the business. She respects the business. So I'm just not sure why she chooses to continually use that word. I don't have a problem with what she said about the fans, and I wouldn't have a problem of her saying negative things about the other wrestlers. That's all part of gaining heat. I get that. But to use that word fake, that it's just really disrespectful to the business and to all of the people who participate in it. And it's wrong, I think.
And this was her response. Hashtag kayfabe killer. Anyone who is outraged by me calling pro wrestling fake fights for fun has never been in a real fight. While you all are tiptoeing around bruising some pro wrestlers' huge soft egos, no one's thinking about all the real fighters you're insulting when pretending pro wrestling is somehow on the same level of realism. Yes, I understand wrestling 300 days a year for years on end is incredibly tough on the body and a difficult profession. But do you know what would happen if you got in 300 real fights a year? You would be dead.
I did see that response. And while all of that may be true, it doesn't excuse her blatant disrespect.
Did you see Nia Jax's tweet?
I sure did.
I can't wait for Ronda to one day return to WWE. Even if WWE orders me to make Ronda look good in the ring, which is the only way for Ronda to look good in the WWE ring with me, I'll risk my job to go down in history as the one from this biz that knocked her the fuck out. Hashtag test me, bitch.
Well, look, man, like I said, I believe that on some level, this is a work. And we've talked about how social media is sometimes used to help build these feuds and to help blur the lines between reality and entertainment. And I'm all fine with that. If they booked a match between Nia and Ronda, I'd be excited to see it.
I just look at this like I compare it to football. Kind of like Any Given Sunday. Like Willie Beeman got out there and was talking crazy. It's just like any quarterback going up. Like ORU's Robert Griffin, who got up there and, you know, when the Washington Redskins were doing bad. And he sat there and blamed the receivers, blamed the line, and all these people. Okay, go ahead and do that. Who's going to protect your ass when the defense is running at you? Who's going to block for the receivers? What receiver is going to want to get open for you? You cannot do this. So for Ronda, if she ever is planning to come back to wrestle, understand that if you don't believe this is real or anything like that, these men and women put their lives on the line every time they step in that square circle, and they trust each other to execute moves that could potentially end their career or cause major injuries. We see it happen all the time. I've already mentioned the Nia Jax thing with Becky. An accident. Stone Cold getting power drive by Owen Hart. An accident. These things happen. And just for her to call it fake, and I don't know. We can go on and on about it. I don't agree with that portion. I don't blame her for not wanting to come back full time for the reasons she outlined, but I just don't think you can. There's a better way to say what she said without burning bridges, I guess is the point I'm trying to say.
Yep, definitely agree. Can't use the word fake when talking about wrestling. It's just something you don't do.
And the last main topic I want to talk about here is just before we get the last thing I'm going to talk about after this is the Ric Flair podcast. WWE has started to explore a plan B for a new city to host WrestleMania 37. And this comes from WrestlingNews.com. WrestleMania 37 is scheduled for March 28th, 2021 at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. As the weeks go by with COVID-19 impacting the United States, WWE is continuing to make changes to their plans that include the biggest event of the year for WrestleMania. For those that don't know, SoFi Stadium, it's not finished, and they have postponed the construction on the structure. So, as far as we know, it's only impacting the events planned for the summer. Taylor Swift was supposed to be the opening attraction for the stadium, but that's not going to happen. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe they go back to Tampa next year. Maybe they go back to Orlando. Maybe they go to Minnesota like Rob wants them to go to. They should. They really should go to Bank of America Stadium. I mean, it's a beautiful building. A lot went into that building being constructed, and it's a dome, so you don't have to worry about weather. I don't see why not. You would get that Midwest crowd. People would travel from Chicago, probably the most. Canada, you would get that audience. I mean, I don't see why not. I think that would be a great location. It's a new location. There, if you don't go there, I guess you could go back to Atlanta because they got the Mercedes-Benz Superdome now. If you still just want to do Hollywood, you can just go back to the Staples Center. But I don't think they want to do arenas anymore. They want to do stadiums. So, to me, those are the best options, in my opinion. Bank of America. No, not Bank of America. U.S. Bank Stadium. I'm sorry. U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota. And then the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in Atlanta.
Well, of course, from the Midwest, I would love it if they did it at U.S. Bank Stadium. That's about 3.5 hours from where I live. I would definitely be there. And WrestleMania hasn't been to the Midwest in a while. I think Indianapolis is the closest it's come in recent years, and that was several years ago. So
they were in Chicago, I think the most recent. 2006, they were in Chicago.
Okay, well, wow, 14 years ago. Okay,
that's a long. That's a long time.
Yeah, I know they were in Indianapolis at the. What's the dome there in Indianapolis where the Colts play?
They haven't used that venue yet.
They haven't. I thought they.
Oh, you know what? You're thinking of Ford Field. They were in Detroit.
In Detroit, okay.
But that was 06, 07, so it's still been 13 years.
Yeah, my own theory is that as much as I would like them to do it in the Midwest, if they can't do it at SoFi, there are other stadiums in Cali where they could do it and still go with the whole Hollywood theme because they've got that going on. You know, going back to Hollywood, I think the Los Angeles Coliseum is still available. It's an older stadium, but I guess they originally were supposed to do WrestleMania 7 there, but for whatever reason, changed it to an indoor venue. But if it's not done in California, my guess is going to be that they do it in Florida. This is just a conspiracy theory on my part. But with WWE, the governor of Florida, declaring that it's essential entertainment or that it's whatever the term they used, I'm guessing that it's a quid pro quo thing where WWE said, if you do this for us, we'll do this for you. We will bring WrestleMania back to you at some point in the near future. So if it doesn't work out in Cali, my guess is that they move from SoFi to somewhere else in Cali or they go back to Florida.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I when it comes to that stuff, as far as WWE goes, it's that part I feel is unfortunate because it's taken away from the fan experience. You know, you and I had the pleasure of going to now WrestleMania 24. Did their whole weekend. Well, the most recent weekend we did was at Royal Rumble 2018. But we did Access, we did TakeOver, we did the Rumble. And it just seems like that culture of doing the whole weekend is just missing, and there's just nothing like it. And it's unfortunate that all this time has gone by and people haven't been able to do it. I mean, just from that aspect alone, I just, for us fans, because I was planning to try to go to SoFi Stadium for WrestleMania, and now it looks like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I was looking forward to SoFi myself. I've never been to LA, never been to California. Would love to go to California. I was actually thinking about making it. I don't know how quickly WWE will decide whether or not they would. Look, it's a year away, so they've got plenty of time. Tickets usually don't go on sale for Mania until around November. So that gives them some time to make a final decision. At the end of it all, I feel like SoFi, they're going to do everything they can to get that stadium done because, look, that's supposed to also be the stadium for the LA Chargers. They're going to be the LA Chargers now. And for
the Rams.
The Rams. So if you don't get the stadium fixed, what are you going to do with them? Where are they going to play?
Yeah, because this thing was supposed to be done for July. That Taylor Swift concert was for July. So it's up in the air at the moment. I don't know why construction wouldn't continue.
Well,
I would think that's essential.
Well, but a construction site has dozens of workers at any given time there, even though they're out in the open.
Well, here's my only argument to that. If you're allowing 100 to 200 people come in your grocery store that may or may not be gloved and masked, what's the difference between that and being outside in open air doing, for the most part, doing construction? And even when they seal it off and you got certain people doing, interiors and all the electronic and the wiring that goes into a building like that, I just feel like people are so cut off and apart from each other. I don't see why you would stop unless somebody knows something I don't know. Excuse me, when it comes to that, because I see things where I live that started construction before COVID-19 hit, and they're still under construction. They're still building. So my guess is they still plan to open.
Well, you just wonder, but should they really be? I mean, we're supposed to be practicing social distancing. And if you've got 100 people at a construction site working within close proximity of each other, technically, you're not social distancing. I don't know. Look, man, all of that is above my pay grade. But I'm assuming that construction site, 50, 100 people is just not a safe thing to do.
And I lied. So we have one more topic before we get to Ric Flair I want to talk about. So switching gears to some AEW news. I know we haven't talked about AEW in a while. Keeping up. May not be able to watch as much and keep up with all the stuff going on. But so as far as Double or Nothing is concerned, the pay-per-view will air as scheduled on Saturday, May 23rd. They had to change venues because the MGM Garden in Las Vegas is shut down. So for fans that purchase tickets, they will get their refund wherever they purchased their tickets from for the event. The venue has not been, as far as we know, a venue has not been decided yet to replace MGM Grand, but the show is going on. So that'll be interesting to watch. I was looking forward to this one too because last year's Double or Nothing was their debut pay-per-view and it was great. So I was really looking forward to this year's, but man, I don't know. Do you feel like WWE and AEW should just halt all these shows and just lead by example for the younger audience and say, hey, this is a pandemic going on, and we're going to do what's in the best interest of our talent. I mean, I guess on one hand, you got to look at having that revenue by putting on a television show. But I guess, I don't know. It's just one of those things, I guess. Personally, I feel like they should both just stop. Maybe AEW can't because they don't have the library that WWE has. I feel like WWE could stop operation and still put on some kind of a show Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I don't know about AEW though.
Well, that is a good point about AEW. Look, just from a fan standpoint, I don't know all of the behind the scenes, the details, what obligations WWE or AEW has to their networks as far as selling TV ads and all the revenue behind it. But just from a fan standpoint, I would like it if they would just shut down for the safety of the wrestlers. And just because I have tried, can't get past the lack of watching these shows. I just have a hard time watching Beyond. Even though the matches are pretty entertaining sometimes. Just the lack of an audience just takes away. We all know the situation that the world is in right now. We would understand it. I think the wrestlers would appreciate it, some time off. But the attitude in wrestling is that, no days off. I mean, wrestling just keeps going. It doesn't have a season. It doesn't take any breaks. It just keeps rolling. I understand that tradition, but just because something is a tradition doesn't mean you can't change up or you can't do something different for a while, especially given these circumstances.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I used to think as a kid watching wrestling that there was an off season. And when I first started watching, I was waiting for it, I was like, well, when do they take a break? 'Cause I thought it was like everything else. I thought it was like NBA and, MLB. I thought that,
Right.
We got at least like 2 or 3 months where they just didn't do anything. Nope. All year round. And like I said, WWE at least has enough content that they could, rewind the clocks back and show these old shows and matches that, I mean, they could show it. They have enough content for years worth of stuff. So, I don't know.
And their rates are way down anyway.
And that is the thing. So there's no excuses of, well, people are working, people are busy. 90% of people are at home, and your ratings are the worst that they've ever been. So they would rather watch reruns and old basketball games and old baseball and soccer and watch Netflix than watch your product.
Yeah. Look, it doesn't look like things are going to change. They're going to continue to pre-record all of these events. Now, the AEW pay-per-view, that one's going to be a hard sell for me because with Mania, I already had a subscription to the network. So Mania, I know, is coming with my subscription. With Double or Nothing, they're going to be asking me to pay $50 coming out of pocket. Now, usually we split it between 3 of us. That takes some of the sting away, maybe so, but I think that's a lot to ask people.
Yeah, I think 50 is a lot, especially when you have so many people that are at work, myself included. So, the last thing I want to get into is the Ric Flair Broken Skull session with Stone Cold Steve Austin. This was I don't know if it was the longest one. It felt like the longest one that they've done. It was an hour and 40 minutes. And very insightful. I did not know. This is the thing that stood out to me from the whole thing. The infamous backstage interview after the Royal Rumble with Gene Okerlund, Kurt Hennig, and Bobby Heenan. Probably one of the most infamous backstage interviews ever. The tear in my eye. and Gene Okerlund, put that cigarette out. All that. Ric Flair was 42 years old in that interview. My God, I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. He's 42 there? Jeez.
Yeah, by the time Flair came to WWF, and he mentioned this in the interview, he was almost 20 years older than most of the guys there. Yeah, as far as the in-ring competitors. But, he was still one of the biggest draws in all of wrestling. Maybe the biggest. Well, Hogan was there at that time, so
yeah.
No one was as big as Hogan. But, of course, this was essential watching for me. I've said it countless times. For me, Ric Flair is the greatest of all time. This was the longest one of the ones that I've watched. But I haven't watched Goldberg's or big shows to this point. But of the ones I watched, this one was the longest. But you can kind of see that Ric Flair has a long and storied career. His story has been told so many times, but there's always new stories every time they're telling it. But it was interesting to me just to hear Flair talk about some of his early influence. The Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Ric Flair wasn't the first one to be called the Nature Boy. He wasn't the first one to have the blonde hair and wear the long robes. Even the great Ric Flair had some influences and people who shaped who he came to be. Now, he took it and took it all to another level with the diamond rings and the jets flying and the limousines riding.
The Rolexes.
And all the catchphrases, to be the man, you got to beat the man. He just took it all to another level. And it wasn't just a character for him. He lived it for better or for worse, But I found it very intriguing and enjoyable to watch. I enjoyed every minute.
Yeah, he talked about paying 3 different women alimony. And, it didn't touch a lot on it. I thought they would more about his son passing away. But I guess they just mentioned it in kind of passing when he was talking about Charlotte. I think maybe that was appropriate. It's just, it is a little hard for me to watch him have a beer on TV after the scare that we had. I'm like, okay, can y'all at least, for, perception, give that man some lemonade or a glass of water or something else? You almost died. And you even talked about, your new wife being at your bedside for 30-some days. And it was because of the lifestyle you used to live. Now, he was running way harder than anybody probably ever. Wrestling these hour-long matches. Leave the arena, straight to the bar. Get drunk, do whatever drugs. Hop in the car, drive to the next town, and do it again. For years, he did this.
Yeah, he did. And I was kind of surprised seeing him drink a beer as well, but you know what? I remember when Ric Flair had his latest health scare, the heart attack, and the operations that he talked about. He said, look, I'm the Nature Boy. He says, I'm going to be the Nature Boy, but he and Stone Cold both alluded to moderation on the podcast, on the show. And I think Flair is trying to do things differently in his life. He knows he's not the man he used to be. He knows he can't do the things that he used to do, but at the same time, he's still the Nature Boy, and he's going to do what the Nature Boy does.
Yeah. It was a great interview. I'd strongly recommend it to any wrestling fan. You get a real education on the business. Talks about evolution. Talks about 4 horsemen. Talks about... He keeps it real somewhat. He doesn't say any names, but he's just, tired of hearing, and I agree with him. Everybody's not a great worker. You have people that cut great promos. And you have people that can wrestle. But you don't have people that know how to work. And I think that the more you watch wrestling and the more you study it, you understand what working is. It's not just being a great athlete. It's not just having a great look. It's not just having a great promo. You have to know how to work it. Take care of that other person in the ring. And it is your job, no matter what, whether the heel or the babyface. Your job is to make the other person look good. Point blank, period. So,
he talked about in Starrcade 1983, Handsome Harley Race.
Yeah.
Over. He says it was Handsome Harley Race, and when he came to WWE, he named a couple of wrestlers. Undertaker, Shawn Michaels made him look
Yeah,
good.
the Undertaker match. I thought that was funny. How the infamous flip. He sent him into the ring post and he didn't hit it, and Taker made him do it again. He said, "Can you hit it this time?" He said, "All right, watch for the boot." It's just funny just hearing that and then seeing it play out. It's like, oh, that's funny.
That was a funny moment that I remember as well, and just hearing him, give credit to those guys, because to me Taker is one of those guys that is just will go down as one of the greatest. And it seemed like to me he took kind of, I don't want to say shots, but he kind of made references to some of the current wrestlers about, you guys think you're great and you're doing some great things, but like you said, just can't throw that term great around so casually.
Well, that, and he just talked about selling. He's like, he's talked about like the current people, like everything moves so fast, and yeah, it looks great, but you don't give, and I've heard this from multiple people, not just him, you're not giving the audience enough time to really understand what just happened, because you kick out at 2, and then you're running and you're doing something else, and then you're running and doing something else, and then you kicked out again, and you hit another move. So the moves don't have the effect that they used to have. They're not as devastating because everybody's kicking out of everything. Like, I know back in the day, somebody hit their finisher, you were left laying until they left. And then people sold it. You just don't have that anymore. But the funniest part of the whole thing was when Stone Cold asked him how he got back into wrestling. Because when Ric Flair was first brought to WWE after WCW closed, he was brought back as the co-owner, as the GM. He didn't have a wrestling role. He was in his 50s. He was 55. And I like how he slyly made reference to Stone Cold taking his bag going home, and he ended up having to wrestle Brock Lesnar because Stone Cold wasn't there. I just like how he set that up. It was, yeah, he's still Ric Flair, even when he's not trying to be.
Yeah, and then, of course, you and I were there for WrestleMania 24. Of course, whenever I see that footage, I get a little emotional and just so glad we were there to see that. But then he went to TNA, and he was just straight up, I needed the money. And he said he later apologized to Vince for doing it, but he was hurt. That's one thing Ric Flair was. He was never good at saving his money, man. When with all the Rolexes and everything, I mean, he lived it. And when you, and the way he drank, and when you're doing that every day, you're not saving a lot of money. He, like you said, he had kids, ex-wives all over the place, and yeah, man. So he just needed the money, and that's why he did that.
Yeah, but I think we all know in our heart of hearts that WrestleMania 24 was his real last match. That was it. That was his. That's like, it's the same. It's no different than Michael Jordan. His last real basketball was played with a Bulls uniform, not the Wizards.
Right.
So it's the same thing. I don't even acknowledge the fact that he went to TNA. But it's a fantastic show. Definitely recommend checking it out. Excuse me. All of the Broken Skull sessions, I've watched 3 of the 5. I do want to watch Big Show's because I'm curious to see what he has to say. Not so much with Kane. Maybe I'll watch it from that. If I get that bored, I'll watch Kane's. But definitely have to watch Flair, Taker's, and I do recommend Goldberg's as well. I don't think I have anything else on the docket. I can't think of anything else going on. We're still waiting to see if there's going to be any more cuts made by WWE. But other than that, I can't think of any other current news as far as wrestling goes.
I feel like we have covered it all.
Cool. Well, make sure you all check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and I guess there's still a Facebook up. You can check that out too, but I don't really update that one as much. Twitter and Instagram, though, Third Generation Wrestling. Twitter is podcast_third. Email is thirdgenwrestling@gmail.com. Make sure you check us out. And we're going to stay up to date with this thing, this pandemic, and keep you all up to date with the news. We're going to have some new shows coming out. We got to get creative because, let's just be real, the wrestling content at this point, the current content is just not the same. So we're not just going to do retrospectives. We're going to get creative, and we're going to do, we've only done one countdown show, so we got to do another one of those. So we have one of those coming down the pipe. And we're just going to, and we might even get creative and go outside of the wrestling ring and review some other topics. So we're looking at it all. We just want to keep the content coming because in these times, you need something to get you through. So, as always, everyone out there, take care. Stay home. Stay safe. Let's all get through this together as one country. We are all one people. This thing affects us all. Mr. Rob.
Just always want to thank the listeners. We appreciate y'all. Stay safe.
Everybody have a great weekend. Take care. And we will see you all. We'll speak to you all next time.